My girlfriend screamed, "You're too clingy, give me space," because I asked where she was at 3 a.m. I said, okay. I blocked her number, packed my stuff while she slept, and moved to another state without a word. 3 years later, she found me. And then, I'm the kind of man who grew up believing silence says more than shouting. The kind who watches people long before I speak. The kind who sees storms before anyone else smells the rain. And the night she screamed those words at me, something inside me finally snapped awake. The night everything broke was a Thursday. I remember because her perfume, vanilla mixed with something floral, lingered in the apartment longer than she did. She left around 8 p.m. for drinks with coworkers. Fine, normal, acceptable. But 1 a.m. passed, 2 a.m. passed. By 3 a.m., her location was still off, and she hadn't answered my last two texts. That uneasy tightness started building in my chest. The kind you get when instinct whispers what logic refuses to say out loud. I wasn't angry. I wasn't jealous. I was tired. So I did the simplest thing. I called and asked, "Hey, are you safe? Where are you?" Her voice didn't match a quiet bar or a sleepy Uber ride home. I heard music, people laughing, something that sounded like a man shouting in the background. And then her tone changed. Sharp, irritated, almost rehearsed. "Why are you calling me? Why are you so clingy all the time? I said I needed space." I blinked. "Clingy? I'm just asking if you're okay. It's 3 a.m. She exploded, like someone had pressed a button she'd been waiting to push. "This is what I mean. You're suffocating me. You always need to know where I am. You're obsessed. I can't breathe." Her voice wasn't scared. It wasn't overwhelmed. It was defensive, cornered, guilty. And that's when something quiet clicked inside me. Not rage, not heartbreak, just clarity. "All right," I said calmly. "If that's how you feel, okay." She hung up on me, probably thinking she'd won some kind of emotional battle. She didn't know she had just ended the war. When she came home at nearly 5 a.m., she didn't even check if I was awake. She crashed onto the bed with that artificial tired sigh, overacted exhaustion to hide the real kind. If she smelled like a man's cologne, I didn't bother confirming it. I didn't ask questions. I didn't need to anymore. Instead, I lay there beside her, staring at the ceiling, feeling something in my chest go still. Not broken, not wounded, just done. By 6:15 a.m., she was dead asleep. Mouth slightly open, hair a mess, her phone still clutched in her hand. I gently took it from her fingers. It was locked, but I didn't need to get inside it. What I needed was peace. I blocked her number from mine, blocked her on everything, messages, calls, socials, deleted our pictures, stopped the sinking feeling that had lived in my stomach for months. Then slowly, quietly, I packed a suitcase, my documents, laptop, clothes, the watch my father gave me. Nothing else, nothing sentimental. She could keep the furniture, the apartment, the life she'd been building behind my back. I booked a one-way bus ticket to a state she'd never mentioned wanting to visit, a place far enough that none of our mutual friends would assume I'd go there. By the time the sun rose and the light touched her face, I was locking the apartment door behind me for the last time. No goodbye note, no dramatic message, no explanation she didn't deserve. Silence. That was my goodbye. The first year was about rebuilding. I worked, saved, changed my number, lived quietly. But freedom has a strange way of healing you so thoroughly that your past no longer feels real. The second year felt like an entirely new chapter. New friends, new routines, new life. I didn't date. I didn't want to. Peace was better than love ever had been. And then came the third year. The year everything I'd escaped from clawed its way back. It started with something small, too small, a message request on my old abandoned email from an address I didn't recognize. "Please, I just want to talk." I deleted it. 3 days later, another one. "I know you're alive. I know you're out there. Please." The fourth message had her full name. The fifth message contained the town I now lived in. And the sixth message had a picture. A picture of me leaving the grocery store, wearing my usual jacket, carrying the same canvas bag, walking back toward the little rental house where I'd been living quietly. The caption read, Found you. My stomach dropped. My hands went cold. It felt like someone had tapped on the window behind me even though I lived alone. I sat there staring at that picture, replaying every day of the last 3 years. Who saw me? Who followed me? Who told her? Because I had cut everyone off, everyone. And that's when the next email arrived. Just 5 minutes later, it said, "I'm coming. You don't get to disappear forever." The thing about running isn't the distance. It's the illusion of safety you build around yourself. It works until it doesn't. But here's the thing she didn't know. The thing she would soon learn the hard way. I don't run anymore. And this time, I wasn't the one being cornered. Because while she was hunting me down, desperate and spiraling, she didn't know the truth she was walking straight into. I wasn't the same man she left behind at 5 a.m. 3 years ago. And I wasn't preparing to hide. I was preparing a trap that needed her to show up, a trap that required her obsession, a trap I'd been quietly building ever since the first message landed in my inbox. Because she wasn't the only one who had changed, and she wasn't ready for the man I had become. The day she emailed that picture, I didn't panic. I didn't pack. I didn't leave. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table, sipping black coffee, watching the steam rise like a slow warning signal. I felt the calm I used to envy in other people. The calm of someone who has nothing left to lose and nothing left to hide. Because in the 3 years since I disappeared, I learned something important. You can rebuild a life, but you should also protect it. And I had. Cameras hidden in plain sight around my house, a doorbell cam connected to my laptop, a security system accessible through my new phone, a file, names, screenshots, notes, kept in a locked drawer, and a friend on the local police force who believed in documenting everything, just in case. Just in case had finally arrived. 3 days after the email with the picture, I saw her. She was standing across the street when I stepped outside for my morning walk. At first, she looked like a stranger. Hair longer, thinner than before, posture curled in on itself. But the second she turned her head, I recognized her eyes. Those same eyes that once pretended innocence. Those same eyes that used to dart away before a lie. Now they were fixed on me like a predator spotting prey. I kept walking, didn't acknowledge her, didn't give her the reaction she wanted. But inside, I felt something cold settle in my stomach. She followed me at a distance, pretending to look at storefronts, pretending to scroll on her phone, badly pretending. When I reached the small cafe I visited every morning, I stepped inside, leaving the door to swing shut behind me. She stayed outside, lurking near the corner like she didn't know she'd already been recorded by 3 different cameras in the area. I sat at my usual table, took out my phone, and opened a chat. Me. She's here, outside the cafe. Officer James. Stay inside. I'm nearby. James wasn't just a friend. He was the kind of man who took stalking seriously. His sister had gone through something similar years before, and he'd sworn to never ignore early signs again. I waited, sipped my coffee, watched the window. After 10 minutes, she stepped inside the cafe. Her eyes locked onto me instantly. She walked up to my table with a shaky smile. One of those smiles built from old habits, not current emotions. "Hi," she breathed, like we were meeting after a lover's quarrel instead of a 3-year disappearance. I didn't respond. She pulled out a chair without asking and sat, folding her hands together like she was praying. "You really left," she whispered. "You really had vanished." I stared at her. "You told me to give you space." She flinched as if my calmness was more painful than anger. "I didn't mean it like that," she said. "I was confused. I was stressed. I was dealing with things." "You were cheating." She froze, her throat bobbed, her fingers curled into trembling fists. "I wasn't—" I cut her off simply. "Don't lie, not anymore." Her eyes filled with tears instantly, her favorite weapon. But this time, they didn't land where she wanted them to. They slid off me like water off stone. "You don't understand," she whispered. "He lied to me. He wasn't who I thought he was. He left me. He ruined everything. I thought you'd still be there when things fell apart." Ah, there it was. The entitlement. The assumption that I'd always be her safe landing spot. The belief that I existed for her emotional recycling. "He?" I repeated. "The guy whose voice I heard at 3 a.m.? She inhaled sharply. "I didn't know you could tell." I knew. Her face cracked then, like glass under pressure. She looked small, broken, but not in a way that inspired sympathy. This was someone angry they'd lost control, not someone mourning their choices. I came to find you, she said, because you can't just leave. Not like that. Not without talking to me. Not without closure. You didn't deserve closure. Her breath hitched. What do you want? I asked. I just want us to talk, she tried. I want to explain. You can't explain your way back into my life. I built something new without you. Her voice rose, too loud for a quiet cafe. You don't get to walk away from me. A few people turned to look. The barista paused mid-pour. Her eyes were wild now, panic mixed with obsession. That's when the bell over the door rang. Officer James walked in. She saw the badge, saw him walk toward us, and she bolted upright. Are you kidding me? She hissed. You called the police on me? For talking? You sent me pictures of my house, I said quietly. You tracked me down. You followed me. That's stalking. James stepped beside the table, posture firm. Ma'am, he said, I need you to step outside with me. I haven't done anything, she shouted. I just want to talk to him. Lower your voice and step outside, James repeated. She backed away, shaking her head. No, I'm not going anywhere. He owes me. I stood. I owe you nothing. Those 4 words hit her harder than any insult. She stared at me with this expression, this deep, wounded disbelief, like I had betrayed her by refusing to let her keep controlling me. But here's the part she didn't see coming. James wasn't just responding. He was documenting. Every word she said was being recorded. Every threat, every accusation, every slip of truth. Because I had already filed a preliminary report the day after the email with the picture. He had advised me to. Stalkers escalate, he'd said. Document everything from the first contact. And she had escalated perfectly. Outside the cafe, she started crying again. Louder now, desperate, begging James to understand she wasn't dangerous, that she just needed closure, that she wasn't done with our story yet. But stories end when one person walks away, and I had walked away 3 years ago. Her phone rang mid-meltdown. She ignored it. It rang again. Finally, she snapped, "What?" into the receiver. I didn't know who was on the other end, but her eyes widened in fear. "What do you mean you're at my apartment?" she whispered. No, I'm not home. Don't go inside. I said, don't go ins—" The call cut off. James raised a brow. Everything all right? She swallowed hard. Then she ran, full sprint, down the street like something had detonated behind her. People stepped aside, startled. Cars honked. She disappeared into the crowd. James exhaled slowly. That girl is one bad secret away from imploding. I didn't disagree. We walked back toward my place, and he explained what would happen next. He'd file a report, add today's incident, request a temporary restraining order. But when we reached my street, a police car was already parked outside my house. Lights flashing, 2 officers at my door, my neighbor standing on the sidewalk, looking rattled. James hurried forward. What's going on? One of the officers asked. You live here? Pointing at me. Yes. We got a call about a possible break-in. My pulse spiked. We walked to the door, still closed, still locked, and one officer stepped aside to show us the doorbell footage on his tablet. She was in it, my ex, pacing, knocking, trying the handle, calling someone, crying, screaming. At one point, she even pressed her forehead against the door like she was pleading with it. Then another figure appeared in the footage, a tall man, dark jacket, face partially hidden. He approached her angrily, grabbed her arm, yanked her toward the steps. She slapped him. He shoved her back. They argued, silent through the video but violent in body language. Finally, he stormed off, leaving her shaking in the porch light. She collapsed on the steps, head in her hands, completely unraveling. The officer paused the video inside. We're going to need statements from both of you, and whoever that man was. I stared at the frozen image of her on the ground. That was the other man, the guy she threw me away for 3 years ago, the guy she'd said ruined everything. And suddenly everything clicked into place. He must have left her. She spiraled. She hunted me down as a backup plan. And when she found I wasn't hers anymore, she snapped. James placed a hand on my shoulder. We'll handle this. She's not your problem anymore. But she tried to make herself my problem again. The following day, she showed up at the police station, alone, crying, rambling, saying she didn't mean to scare me, that she was just emotional, that she only wanted to talk. But the report was already filed. The videos were already saved. The emails already documented. When the restraining order was granted, she stared at me across the room with this expression, this hollow, devastated disbelief, as if she couldn't understand why I no longer lived inside her orbit, as if my peace was a betrayal. The final twist came a week later. James showed up at my door holding a small box. "She left this at the station," he said. "Wanted you to have it." Inside was a note, just one sentence. "You were supposed to save me." I read it twice, then set it down. Because here's the truth she never understood. I had saved someone, myself, and saving myself meant letting her drown in the consequences she created. James clapped my shoulder once before leaving. "You did the right thing." Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. But when I closed the door and the quiet wrapped around me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Finality. The story she tried to drag me back into was finally over. And the life she never thought I could build without her, it was finally unquestionably mine.